2024, we completed it. Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I am wrapping up 2024. So we're going to talk stats and we're going to talk my favourite books of the year and just kind of finish off my 2024 content really before we then launch into 2025. This is my first time filming a full video in the new house. As you guys know, I took a bit of a break over end of December, and the content that you saw up to then was pre-filmed in the old house, aside from the vlogs obviously. And yeah, this is the first time filming this setup. I'm not sure how I feel about it, but we will figure it out. The next few videos you'll see in this setup, definitely, and then I might switch it up, but we will see how we get on today. So yeah, I just want to kind of finish off the completionist in me. I did think about not doing end of year content, but then I was like, no, but I love making those videos and also watching them. So here we are. So we're going to start off with stats, then we'll talk about my favourite books. And yeah, that's pretty much the video. I'm not going to do a worst books of the year video or most disappointing or whatever. I do pick a most disappointing book out of each month. So if you want to go back and watch this year's monthly wrap-ups, I'll leave the playlist below. So you can see which book I liked least in a month. I love watching those videos incidentally, so I'm not like throwing shade at anyone that makes those videos. They are so fun. So I'll also link Gavin's from Gavin Reads It All and Chloe's from Chloe Reads Books, and also Brie from Four Paws in a Book. So those are three that I've seen recently and enjoyed. They do them really well. I just don't feel like I have enough for a whole video. Like, the only book I actively disliked this year was The House Across the Lake by Riley Sager, which I very nearly threw across the room when I realised what was happening. So I'll find the vlog where I read that, and I'll link that one below if you want to see me go on a rant. But that was the only one I can think of that I actively disliked this year. Mostly just because I'll leave past self to give you that rant if you are interested. So yeah, we're mostly just going to check in on my intentions. I'll tell you about my favourite books, and that'll be it. I'll also put the original video where I gave my 2024 intentions if you want to see me last year, before 2024 happened. If you want to see that video, I will link that below. Okay, so I set myself 8 intentions as I do most years. Got my trusty blue notebook. This will be the last video that this appears in because we're swapping over to the new one in January. So yeah, I set myself 8 intentions. So we're going to whip through them to see how I went. And yeah, let's see. Okay, so my first intention, so I always set a word for the year, and my 2024 word was authentic. And I think I met this word quite well. I just wanted everything that I did, both in my content creation and otherwise in my normal life, to feel authentic, to feel real, and to make sure that I was doing things that I wanted to do, if that makes sense. And I feel like I've met that. 2024, we've moved house, which was a massive thing, obviously. That whole process was a weird mixture of exciting and fun and terrifying and stressful. I'm so happy with the house that we've landed in. You guys have seen bits of it so far in vlogs. I'm not going to do a house tour. A couple of people have asked about that. I'm not going to do a house tour. I just think that's a little bit, for me, is a little bit invasive. But you will have seen in the November vlog, I think I took footage downstairs. The room downstairs is all one open plan room. I took some footage of that before we moved our stuff in, and you'll see bits and bobs as I vlog, but I'm not going to do a proper house tour. Also, the house is lovely, but it's not our style yet. So yeah, I'm not going to do a house tour. But yeah, we moved house. I also changed my job. I now work in an autism centre, which I'm just absolutely loving. I feel like I've found where I'm supposed to be, or like the area of teaching I'm supposed to be in, so that's been really good. And the channel's grown really well, and yeah, I feel like everything that I've put out into the world has been authentic. I've allowed myself to take breaks, which we'll talk about in a minute, and yeah, I feel like I have met that word. I also set my reading target at 150 books. I've done this for the last couple of years, so that's 12 and a half a month. I've massively exceeded that. I finished on 187 books, which totaled 57,218 pages. So I absolutely smashed my page goal as well. And also, kind of more importantly than that, my average star rating for the year was 4.05 stars. So not only have I read loads, I've really enjoyed the majority of what I've read. So I think it was a cracking reading year. Hopefully you guys enjoyed coming along for the ride if you've been watching my vlogs. If you're new, I do monthly wrap-ups. I do like vlog wrap-ups, vlog style wrap-ups, there are the words. Rather than a sit-down video where I show each book at the end of the month, I just vlog as I go to give you my thoughts and feelings, and also you get little snippets of my life as well in there. So hopefully you guys have enjoyed, those that have been watching. Hopefully you've enjoyed coming along for the ride. Like I said, the playlist will be linked below. But yeah, I feel like it's been a really positive reading year. I've definitely found what I like to read, and I'll show you my stack in a second of favourite reads, and it is such a cross-section of what I like to read. So yeah, so smash that one out. Also, charity fundraising even is a massive focus for this channel. So 100% of all my AdSense goes into the charity account, at least 50% of sponsored content. I don't get much sponsored content. I don't get much paid content. I do occasionally get companies who are kind enough to send me their products to test out for you guys and show you, but usually you just get paid in product. I do very occasionally get, like I said, like paid cash monies, and at least half of that goes into the charity account, and then 100% of the Etsy. So if you're not aware, I also have an Etsy store where I sell bookmarks, and 100% of the money goes straight into the charity account and then gets split between 2 charities at the end of the year. So in 2024 we are fundraising for Crisis, which is a homeless charity here in the UK, and the Trussell Trust, which is a charity that runs food banks, and I am very proud to say I really put this on the community tab, so a lot of you will know if you've seen that. We raised £2,272.42, which is incredible. I did top it up a little bit, and we sent £1,300 to each charity in the name of the channel, which was very exciting, and I was very, very proud to do that. So yeah, absolutely smashed that one. I also was aiming to save £1 per book read. I have done that. I've got another savings pot that's got my reading money in it. So that's obviously got £187 sat there at the moment. And when I wrote this, I wrote book shopping ? I'm not going to use it for book shopping. I'm going to use it for a massage at some point, or a spa treatment. I'm currently having, because I'm such an old lady, a problem with my neck, which means I can't have a massage obviously. But once this is sorted out, hopefully in the start of the year, I will treat myself from myself to a nice kind of some sort of spa experience. So I'm looking forward to that. Keep the TBR to 50 books. Okay, so I'm finishing the year on 56 books. So I didn't quite manage it. What was it in January, just out of interest? So January was at 40 books. And if you've watched my December wrap up, which I'll link in the description, you will know that I had, how many books came in this month? 36 books came in December. So whoops, that's definitely pushed me over. However, I feel like 56 is not that far off. I obviously haven't given myself a tick for that one because I didn't achieve it, but I'm not far off, so that's okay. Number 6 was no books older than 6 months. I have stuck to this, and this has worked really well. I feel like that's why I had such a good reading year, because everything that I was picking up was pretty fresh. The oldest book on my TBR is currently from 5 months ago. And yeah, that has really worked for me this year, so big tick there. Keeping up with arcs, I've also done that. Obviously everybody does this differently, and I'm not being shady about other creators, but I feel like receiving arcs, whether they are physical or electronic, is a privilege. And I personally think, as part of being a creator, if you're sent arcs, you should keep up with those, and you should read them the month before they come out to help with advertising the book, and giving your opinion whether you loved it or not. Obviously opinions should always, and they always are on this channel, always be honest, but I feel like keeping up with arcs that you're sent is a privilege that not many people get. So if you get them, I feel like you should read them, and if you're not going to keep up with them, don't accept them, is my thoughts on that. But yeah, I managed to keep up with my arcs this year. I've got a few coming up I'm really excited for the start of 2025, but yeah, that was a big tick for that one. And also number 8 was to complete the reread challenge, so I'll put that video below as well if you're interested. But I basically set myself 24 books to reread off my shelves in 2024. That was a huge success. I completed all 24 books. I DNF'd one, which was Wuthering Heights, and actually it meant, it kind of clarified certain books that are definite keepers that I gave 5 stars the second time, all that sort of stuff, and also rooted out a few that maybe my reading taste has changed, or that I still enjoyed but I don't want to keep on my shelves. So yeah, that was really successful, so that was a big tick. Okay, so that was the kind of the stats, I guess, and the reflecting, like looking at the intentions I set. Like I said, I feel like it was a successful year, and I've really enjoyed my reading, which is obviously the point. Okay, let's talk about top reads of the year. If you've been watching my content, you'll know the 12 books I'm about to hold up. I can't talk today because I do always choose a favourite book at the end of each month. It also means it's really easy when it comes to the end of the year and I'm like, I need to choose a favourites stack because I've already got it. So in January, I started January 2024 with a reread of the entire Heartstopper series up to that point, and then picked up, as part of that, volume 5. This was my favourite for the month of January. I love this series. I love these boys. We are following 2 boys from a UK secondary school, Nick and Charlie, who meet in the first one. I think Charlie is in year 10 and Nick is in year 11, about to sit his GCSE exams, and they meet in form, which is like registration, and they become friends and then they fall in love. And obviously this is book 5, and so, or volume 5, so I can't tell you too much about it in detail, but I loved it. I love the way Alice Oseman writes. I love the rep. I love the art style. I love the relationship between these two. Let's show you. That's like literally the start. So that's the kind of art style we're talking about. I just love everything about the series. I think we're getting volume 6 this year, and yeah, that was an easy choice for January. So that was my January book. Then in February, I read a book that then became a complete obsession. I've got 2 books by this author in this stack, and it's become part of my personality. And I feel like if any of you have watched any of my content this year, you're going to know which book I'm about to hold up. Because in February, I read The Hobbit by J.R.R. Tolkien. I actually reread this in December as an audiobook as well, and became completely obsessed. I tabbed it. You got the tabs there. I can't tell you what the tabs are for because they're for specific characters. I don't want to obviously give any spoilers. I just absolutely loved this book. Picking up this was kind of inspired by Gavin at Gavin Reads It All, because he did, at the end of 23, I think, he did a vlog where he went and stayed in a Hobbit hole for a week or a few days, and he read the Lord of the Rings and the Hobbits series. And the way he talked about the book, I was like, I love found family, I love travel books, I love books about food. I was like, I'm going to try this again, and I'm so glad I did. I did read The Hobbit as a kid, and I remember enjoying it, and then going on to try and read the Lord of the Rings series and not being able to get into it. As you can see up here, I was successful in my mission this year of reading it. Absolutely love the whole series, but The Hobbit for me is my favourite. In case you have been living under some sort of a rock and don't know what The Hobbit is, we are following Bilbo Baggins. He was a very reluctant hero, which, as it turns out, is a trope I really love. And he kind of gets dragged off by Gandalf and a group of dwarves on this adventure that he doesn't want, to defeat a dragon and return treasure. And I just love this. I loved it so much. And I've talked about it a lot this year, but yeah, that was my February pick. Then in March, I read Garlic and the Witch by Brie Paulson, and this was just so adorable. We're following Garlic, who's this little garlic bulb. This is the second book in the... Well, at the moment it's a duology. I don't know if we're getting any more garlic. I hope we do. And Garlic is this, like I said, this little garlic bulb who lives in a vegetable patch with her friends, and they're looked after by this witch who kind of takes care of them. And I don't really want to say too much more than that. It's adorable. This is the kind of art style we're talking about. So if you can hear the rain, I have chosen like the worst weather day to film this, and we've got a conservatory on the back of our house, so it's probably really loud, so I do apologise. But yeah, I just love this. This was cozy. It's got a lot to say. It's got kind of social commentary in it. It's just, I just adored it. So yeah, that was my March pick. Then in April, I picked up and read Agatha Christie by Lucy Worsley. I feel like this might have been a gift, or is this one I picked up myself? Can't remember. If you've gifted me any of these, thank you so very much. I've read Lucy Worsley's fiction previously. She wrote I Am Victoria, which was about Queen Victoria as a young girl. Didn't love it. This was incredible. This was so interesting, so well researched. I didn't really know much about Agatha Christie. I've read a lot of her books. I'm currently working my way through the Miss Marple series, but I didn't really know that much about the woman herself. And this was fascinating. Like I said, it didn't feel like, non-fiction can sometimes be a bit dry, right? This was not dry. This was fascinating. There's also pictures and kind of stuff like family photographs and things all the way through. I just got to the end of it and wanted to read it again, which is always a sign of a good book. But I also feel like it brought more to my experience of reading Agatha Christie's works, because you've got more context and more understanding of what she was like and what the world was like when she was writing, and the influences on her and all of that stuff. So yeah, this was my, which month did I say? April. This is my favourite book of April. Then in May, I read The Last Devil to Die by Richard Osman. This is the 4th book in the Tuesday Murder Club. It's currently the last book. I think there is another book. I think there are more books coming, but he's taken a break to start another series, which was called, can't remember. I read it and was really disappointed by it in November. Didn't enjoy it at all. However, I love this one. This one made me sob. I have also got the sprayed edge edition. So in the Tuesday Murder Club, I can't talk too much about this one specifically because it's book 4. You are following a group of retired people. They live in a retirement village and they solve crime. And each book is a different crime that they are uncovering and solving. It's a lot of fun. He's got this very kind of relaxed, cozy feel. There's a lot of humour, but then there's also darker bits. There are definitely violent parts of this and his other books. And also it talks about aging and being an older person, the loneliness that can come with that, the losses that can come with being an older person. And this one made me sob twice, like the end. Like I cried like someone I knew had died. And that's fantastic writing. If a book can get that kind of reaction out of me, it's an immediate 5 stars. And this was definitely my favourite of the series and of May. So yeah, that one was one I really enjoyed. And I really hope we get another Thursday Murder Club. I think I might have said Tuesday Murder Club a few times. It's Thursday Murder Club book soon because I really miss the characters. Okay, then in June I read I Am by Maggie O'Farrell. Maggie O'Farrell wrote Hamnet, which is one of my favourite books of all time, and I've never read anything else by her because I was terrified I wouldn't love it. This is her autobiography, sort of, and I love this, obviously, because it's in my favourite books of the year. This is, as it says on the front, 17 Brushes with Death. And it is her autobiography. It's very short, but it's looking at the 17 times she's nearly died and the effects of those events on her. And I just thought this was quiet and powerful, and it really made me think. And it's one of those books that kind of, I felt different by the end of reading it. It is definitely one I will go back to. And if you've been looking at this and kind of thinking about it, please do pick it up. Check content warnings, because she talks about things like traumatic births. She talks about miscarriage and all of that kind of stuff. It is very detailed, so just, yeah, check content warnings. I don't think there is one at the beginning. No, that's talking about sections of the book. So yeah, she talks about the death of her brother, so she talks about grief quite a lot. Like, just check the content warnings because she does not hold back. But yeah, like I said, it was powerful and quiet and wonderful, and I loved it, and it was easily my favourite book of June. Then in July, and we're now getting into some of the fantasy in this stack. I mean, we've obviously already had The Hobbit. But then in July, I picked up The Spell Shop by Sarah Beth Durst. And this, I kind of knew I was going to enjoy this because it's cozy fantasy. And also look at the cover. And the cover has a cat with wings on the front and a cottage that I want to live in. So I knew I was going to enjoy it, but I didn't realise how much I was going to love it. And I have bought this book, I think, for 4 different people for Christmas this year just gone, which is always a sign that I have loved a book. So in this one, we're following, what was her name? We are following Keela, and she has to flee. She lives in a city. She has to flee because there is a riot breaks out. She's a librarian, so she is obviously in the library when it happens, and her plant Kaz, and Kaz is a sentient plant, they basically grab as many books as they can. They jump into a boat because the city that she's in is kind of Venice coded, I think. Jump into a boat and they sail away from the chaos. And they end up back on the island where she grew up, and her parents have passed away, but they lived in this cottage. And so they go back to the cottage, which has remained empty. And they basically build a life. And Kayla has, what did I say her name was? Keela even has some magic. Magic is outlawed. So she sets up a jam shop basically as a front for selling spells and trading spells. She sets up this jam shop, and it kind of goes from there. And it's very much found family and magic and cozy. There's a romance. There is also a character called Meep, who I don't want to give too many spoilers, but I would die for Meep, and Kaz. And it was just this wonderful, cozy, romantic fantasy time, with kind of messages about, it's got eco messages in it, messages about being true to yourself, all that kind of stuff. And again, I would read, like I've said with other books in other videos and stuff, like, for me, the sign of a good book is when I want to see more of these characters. I don't know what else she's writing. I think this was her debut. Yeah, it is. Oh, it's her debut adult cozy fantasy. I think she's written books for kids and stuff. I don't know what else she's writing for adults. I will read whatever else she puts out, but I would love to have more of these characters, and just like not even really doing much, just like their day-to-day lives. Like I just want to see more of these characters. And like I said, I bought this book I think for at least 4 people over Christmas because I loved it so much. And yeah, that was easily my pick for July. I'm just looking at my list down here. Okay, then in August we had the first of 2 romance books on this list. This one is a fantasy romance. I'm pretty sure one of the other books in the series was in my favourite reads of 2023. And this book is A Werewolf's Guide to Seducing a Vampire by Sarah Hawley. I love this series. These are very Marmite books. I know some people love them, some people don't. It starts with A Witch's Guide to Fake Dating a Demon. Then the second one is A Demon's Guide to Wooing a Witch. And this is obviously the third one. And I just loved these characters. I loved being in the town. I can't remember what it's called. But there's this kind of like, it's a bit like Stars Hollow, but with magic. And in this one, we're following Ben, who is a werewolf. And he's very much not the alpha male kind of werewolf. He's kind of nerdy, as you can see him in his sweater vest and his glasses, and he just wants a quiet life, but he is a werewolf, so once a month he has to kind of go into the woods, deal with transforming, and all of that comes with it. And he accidentally, sort of towards the end of a transformation, when he's a bit woozy, he's back at home, he's on eBay and he buys a crystal. But what he doesn't realise is that inside the crystal is a succubus, a vampire succubus, which is Eleanor, which is our other character. And she's been trapped inside this crystal for centuries. We don't know how long. And it's about the friendship and then the relationship between the two of them. And Eleanor is basically feral. She's not used to modern life. Like I said, she's been trapped by a witch for centuries. And it's about her and Ben going on this mission to try and free her from the crystal. And they obviously fall in love along the way. And this was really fun. And I've said this before, in order for me to get on board with romance, I have to believe in the couple and I have to want them together. And I love the way that these two characters love each other, and the care they take of each other and all that kind of stuff. Plus, you've got the found family aspect of the wider characters. There's food descriptions and all that fun stuff. And yeah, I just loved it. Would highly recommend that one. And that was my pick for August. And to be fair, in August, I read 31 books because I completed a 31 and 31. I'll leave the vlog linked below if you're interested. So for me to choose this out of all of those books tells you how much I enjoyed it. Then in September, I was still clearly continuing on my romance kick because my favourite read of September was In the Weeds by B.K. Borison. This is the second in the... I can't remember what this series is called either. What is the town called? Inglewild, in the Inglewild series. It starts with Love Like Farms, and then this is the second one. So I read the first 2 on audio, and I haven't yet read Mixed Signals, which is the third, because it's not currently available on audio, and I want to continue with the audio reading. However, I loved it enough to get a physical copy. Actually, I was gifted it by Ali, who very kindly sent me this for my birthday. That's Ali at This Little Wonderful Life. And I love this story. Again, you've got to have a couple you can cheer for, and I can definitely cheer for these two. So in this one, we're following Evelyn, or Evie, who does appear in the first book. She is an influencer, and basically she's completely burnt out with her life. And so she kind of runs away, goes off grid, and she thinks about the last place that she was happy, and that was Inglewild. So she pops up in the first book, like I said, and so she goes back to Inglewild for a break, and she ends up having to stay with, what is his name, Beckett, who is the grumpy farmer. And it's a grumpy sunshine trope. Because of a series of events, and also because the people in the town are interfering, she ends up having to stay with Beckett because there's no room at any of the hotels in town. And nobody else has got anywhere else she could possibly stay. And they have got history because they've previously had a 1-night stand or a 2-night stand. But she ended that by just disappearing in the middle of the night. So this is a second chance romance for both of them. It's a forced proximity thing. And again, I just loved their love story. I just got so caught up on it, even. It's got things to say about social media, the power of social media, but also the toxicity of social media. Bennett is dealing with... he's kind of possibly dealing with autism. He's got a lot of sensory issues that he hides and masks, that she notices and helps him with. I love all of that. He's got this like pack of sisters that I would love to spend time with. And yeah, it was just a lovely time, and that was my favourite read in September. Then in October, and I've got a whole vlog for this, so I will link that below, I went to Hay and Wye, which is a book town in Wales. I had a fantastic time. And whilst I was there, I read The Solstice Court by our very own Jade Juniper. Jade has a YouTube channel, which I will obviously link along with anyone else that I've mentioned. And this is her debut novel. It's a debut fantasy novel. And she very kindly sent this to me in August. I think you see me open it in my birthday book haul, which I'll also link. She didn't send it as a birthday present, but she asked me if I'd be interested in reading it, and I was like, very much yes. But because of my dyslexia, I can't read on a screen. So she was kind enough to send me this beautiful paperback copy of it. I mean, her illustrator has just done the most stunning job. It's beautiful. I was a little bit nervous to read it because she is someone I know. She's a friend, and I was like, what if I don't like it? Luckily, I loved it, gave it 5 stars. It was easily my favourite read of the month. In this one, we are following Kezra. We are in a fantasy world. There's a map. There's like a whole thing. Maybe I'll leave a video from Jade underneath to explain it a little bit better. But we're basically following Kezra. Her country sits between 2 warring countries, and her country has to basically stay as neutral as possible. And we kind of follow her as envoys from those countries come to her town, to her city, and she has to navigate it. And it's got loads of brilliant rap in this, all kinds of different sexualities and genders and identities in here. The writing is just like, this doesn't feel like a debut novel. If the writing is very kind of assured and confident, and I was on board straight away. I was on Kezra's side. I can't wait for the next book. The next book comes out this year, I think, and it's called The Solstice Heir, I think. Jade recently announced that on her socials, and I'm so excited for book 2. And I just was thoroughly swept up into this fantasy world, and I can't wait to see what happens. There is also a very slow burn romance. Normally, or previously, really slow burn romances have irritated me, but not in this. Like, I can see, or I think I can see what she's doing, and I'm fully on board. So yeah, that was my pick for October. Then in November, we had a surprise 5-star. I love that. They're my favourite kind of 5 stars when you're not expecting it. I picked up a copy of this book that was so battered in the charity shop. It was water damaged. I think someone had dropped it in the bath. It was in terrible condition, but I got it for 50p. And it was because I recognised one of the author names. So I was like, yeah, we'll give that a go. And I loved it so much. I bought myself a fresh copy because I'm going to put this on my shelf. Molly's now coming over to say hello. Hello, little one. And so my favourite book in November was Mad Honey by J.D. Picot and Jennifer Finney Boylan. So I don't want to give too much away with this. And it's difficult to talk about because one of the reasons I loved it is one of the things that if I tell you about it, it's a spoiler. So I'm just going to tell you what's on the back. So it says, because this is what drew me in, the body of an 18-year-old girl is found at the bottom of the stairs in her family home. Only 2 people know the truth behind what happened. One of them is dead and the other is your son. Like, just reading the back of that makes me want to reread this again, and I really don't have time to reread it at the moment. So we're following 2 perspectives. I cannot remember what the mother is called. We're following, where's the start of the chapter? So we're following Lily, who is the girl who was found dead, and we're following Olivia, who is the mother of the boy who was accused of killing Lily. So Olivia's son has been in a relationship with Lily. Lily's found dead at the bottom of the stairs, and the only other person in the house is Olivia's son. And so we're following, in Olivia's timeline, we're following the aftermath of Lily's death, her son's arrest, the trial, all of that kind of stuff. And then in Lily's perspective, we are following Lily's life up to the point, obviously, where she dies. So we've got these 2 timelines happening. We're also seeing a little bit of Olivia's backstory because she was in an abusive marriage with her ex-husband. So we're seeing some of the domestic violence and stuff that she was dealing with. So there are big content warnings for this book, so please check them. So all of this is kind of building this picture of these 2 women. And then you kind of see how everything fits together. And I just thought this was fantastically written. It's rare for me to enjoy a book written by 2 authors. You could kind of tell who was writing which character. However, they do say at the end, and the author's note at the end, they do say that at least one chapter they swapped, which makes you want to go back and reread it to see if I can work out which chapter that was, where they'd switched. But this was fantastic. This has got things to say about society. It's got things to say about being a woman. It's got things to say about motherhood. I also learnt some stuff about bees. and about honey and mad honey and what that is. And yeah, I would highly recommend this. If this has been hanging around, this has been out a few years, I do also love this cover. If this has been hanging around on TBR, pick it up and read it. It was brilliant, and it's also made me want to read more Jodie Picoult and also more Jennifer Finney Boylan in 2025. And then finally in December, and if you've just watched my December vlog, you'll have seen this already, my favourite read of that month was another J.R. Tolkien, and this was Letters from Father Christmas. This was just such the perfect thing to read in December. I picked it up on audio because Mary at Mary Among Stories was reading it and talking about it in her Vlogmas videos. And just the way she talked about it, she's talked about it before, about how cosy it is, how beautiful it was. And given that I'd read 4 books already by Tolkien this year, I was like, this is clearly a sign. So I picked up on audio. I think the audio is like 2.5 hours. It was the perfect thing to read in the last week of term on audio. And then my lovely brother sent me this gorgeous hardback copy of it for Christmas. So basically, what is this? Oh, I should obviously tell you that. J.R. Tolkien, for 20 years, as his children were growing up, every year he would write to them multiple letters from Father Christmas. And just the idea of that makes me want to cry, because it's just such a beautiful thing to do for your children. He wrote them letters from Father Christmas, also from a polar bear character, and then a little bit later on from an elf character. And he, look, you can see in this, like these end pages show you, he had different handwriting for each character. He did them illustrations. It was just such a detailed world that he built for his children, and just such a beautiful thing to do. And he was writing through both world wars as his children were born and grew up and all that sort of stuff. And he tackles things like rationing and them having to move away, and, you know, being sent to be safe. And he, you know, there's this whole like goblin army who are invading Father Christmas's stores. And so he's able to talk about war in a way that is understandable and accessible for children. And I just thought this was glorious. I'd highly recommend the audiobook as well. That was fantastic. And yeah, I was so happy to get a hard copy of this, especially for my brother. That just added to it for Christmas. So yeah, that was my December pick. Okay, so those are my top reads of the year. I have never previously ranked them. I've just gone through those obviously in month order. But what I thought I would do this year is do a top 3. So let me just rejig these and get them in the right order, because these are like the best of the best. If you only take 3 book recommendations from this video, please let them be these. So in third place, we have Agatha Christie by Lucy Worsley. In second place, we have The Spell Shop by Sarah Beth Durst. Like I said, I bought this for 4 different people for Christmas, which is always a sign. And my book of the year, it could literally only be The Hobbit by J.R. Tolkien. This book has dominated my entire year. It's changed my reading this year, and I've read it twice in a year. So my book of 2024 could only be The Hobbit, and I've had a fantastic time reading it. Okay, those are all the stats, my favourite books and all that good stuff. I think that's probably enough for one video. In the comments, tell me what were your favourite reads of 2024, because I would love more recommendations. If you can give me your top book for 2024, please do. If that's too difficult, give me your top 3 or your top 5. Can't have too many recommendations. If you got to this point in the video, let's have a mountain emoji for this gorgeous cover of The Hobbit. Please subscribe if you would like more of this chaos, and I will see you in the next one. Thanks everyone. Bye.